Dear candidates, after 10 seconds, I will start the actual dictation. Write the dictation patiently. Be ready. What is the value of attributing extreme events to climate change? Just a couple of decades ago, the UN Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change (IPCC) argued that individual weather events could not be attributed to climate change. The science has since evolved, albeit with all its attendant uncertainties, and now we regularly hear of researchers having been able to attribute some individual extreme events to climate change. Many scientific and data challenges persist in this exercise even as its outcomes are argued to be usable for estimating richer countries' historic liability for climate-related loss and damage and the legal liability of governments and corporations in precipitating adverse events like floods and droughts. However, researchers have used a variety of methods to evaluate attributability, which raises questions about whether attribution science is mature enough to be used in courts and multilateral fora. While no formal cost-benefit analysis of an attribution exercise has been reported, many experts have argued that attributions are critical for the loss and damage process. Loss and damage does not have a unique definition, but its place in climate talks under the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change has come a long way in the last decade. Economically developing countries, in particular those that are particularly vulnerable, have demanded the Loss and Damage Fund to pay for the havoc climate change risks within their borders. Obviously, the criteria by which particularly vulnerable countries are to be identified are crucial. For example, India is a developing country, the tropics, and is highly vulnerable to climate change's impacts. But it is unlikely that India will qualify for L&D funding, and herein lies the rub. Should climate finance and green funds focus on adaptation and mitigation alone, or should they administer L&D funds separately? If the latter, then will attribution exercises help? The developed world is opposed to the idea of being held legally accountable in court for any extreme events, since that could open a floodgate of lawsuits. Against this background, our understanding of whether attribution reports can actually hold up in court as evidence of culpability is very important. A good case in point is a recently published report on heat waves in Asia. Last week, a team of climate scientists called World Weather Attribution reported that heat waves across Asia from the west to the southeast had been rendered nearly 45 times more likely by the climate change. Stop.